Have you ever thought about the entire history of humanity as one single, epic story? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're tracing this huge narrative all the way from the first moments in heaven to the final day of judgment. And we're doing it all through the lens of one of the Quran's longest and most powerful chapters, Surah 7, The Heights.
So, our guide for this exploration is the 20th century commentator Sayyid Qutb. In his famous work, In the Shade of the Quran, he makes this really fascinating argument that this chapter isn't just a collection of separate stories, but one continuous, unfolding drama about the journey of faith itself.
Qutb sets the stage with a pretty cool idea. He says that every chapter, every surah, has its own unique character, almost like a personality. He wants us to experience Surah 7 not just as words on a page, but as a journey to be taken, one with a very clear beginning and a powerful end.
So, what is this grand narrative he's talking about? Well, according to Qutb, it's nothing less than the entire story of humanity's relationship with God. It's this single, sweeping procession of faith, kicking off with a covenant we all made before we ever set foot on earth, and ending with our final return to face the music.
All right, so let's go right to that starting line. The story opens up in heaven with the very first human beings, Adam and Eve. And it's right here, in this perfect setting, that the central conflict, the one that's going to define all of human history, is established.
Right from the jump, two completely opposite forces are in play. On one side, you've got God's covenant with us, a promise of guidance, of mercy, and a clear path back to Him. And on the other side, you've got Satan's temptation, a slick, deceptive promise built on arrogance, designed to lead us astray, just like it led to his own fall.
Qutb actually breaks this down into three key players in this cosmic drama. First, the divine, the ultimate source of all truth. Second, the human, honored by God with free will and the ability to choose. And third, the satanic, the sworn enemy whose entire mission is to exploit that very freedom of choice. This basic conflict is really the engine that drives the rest of the story.
So after that first test in heaven, the scene shifts down to earth. And here, a long procession of messengers begins. Qutb presents this not as a bunch of disconnected events, but as a single, recurring pattern of faith and rejection, a cycle that just plays out over and over again.
And this procession of faith, it stretches across thousands of years. From Adam through figures like Noah, Hud, Saleh, Lot, Shu'aib, and then Moses. The faces change, the places change, but the core message? It stays exactly the same, a call to believe in one God. And as we're about to see, the response they got was often just as consistent.
Now this is the key point that Qutb really emphasizes. History isn't just random, it follows a cycle. First, a messenger shows up with crystal clear guidance. Second, that message gets rejected, usually by the powerful elites who see it as a threat to their status. And finally, third, the community has to face the direct consequences of that rejection. It's a pattern that's meant to be a lesson for all of us. This whole historical pattern, it reaches its most detailed, most dramatic peak in the story of the prophet Moses and the tyrant Pharaoh. Qutb doesn't just see this as another story in the line. He frames it as the ultimate case study, the final boss battle, if you will, between faith and worldly arrogance.
And this is a story of total confrontation. It's the divine truth embodied by Moses going head-to-head against the falsehood of tyranny embodied by Pharaoh. It's a full-on mobilization of all forces. You've got divine power on one side and all the earthly might, magic, and oppression on the other.
And here we see the absolute summit of human arrogance. Get this. When Pharaoh's own sorcerers see a real miracle from Moses and they immediately declare their belief in God, what's Pharaoh's response? It's pure disbelief and rage. He actually declares that they needed his permission to believe. That one statement captures the very essence of tyranny, the attempt to control not just what people do, but what they think and feel.
This whole confrontation, it doesn't just happen all at once. It escalates through a series of undeniable signs. Each one is a chance for Pharaoh and his people to wake up and see the truth. You have Moses' miracles completely overwhelming the court sorcerer's tricks, then the devastating plagues that serve as clear warnings. But with every refusal to listen, the intervention gets more and more direct, building towards that final, mind-blowing miracle at the sea.
So the outcome? It's not even a question. It is a decisive, complete victory for the truth.
The story serves as the ultimate proof that earthly power, no matter how intimidating it seems, is absolutely nothing compared to the power of God. The tyrant is brought down and the believers are saved. End of story.
So, after this long journey through human history, from that first covenant to the whole line of prophets and that huge climactic battle, the surah finally brings us to the finish line, the Day of Judgment. This is where every single person's journey finds its final resolution.
And on that day, the two paths that started way back at the dawn of time, they reach their final separate destinations. The believers, they inherit a state of peace, of total contentment. Meanwhile, the unbelievers face nothing but regret, loss, and a dialogue of blame, finally realizing what they gave up. It's the ultimate consequence of all the choices made on this journey of life. And this brings us right to the chapter's namesake, Al-A'raf, or the Heights. It's described as a kind of barrier, a wall between heaven and hell. And on this wall stand people whose good and bad deeds are perfectly balanced. They're stuck in this state of suspense, looking over at heaven with so much hope, just waiting for God's final, merciful judgment to let them in.
When you step back, this whole interpretation of Surah 7 really presents life as one continuous journey. It's got a clear starting line and a definite finish line. The chapter lays out all these historical landmarks for us, the covenants, the prophets, the major confrontations. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In the story of our own lives, what are the landmarks that are defining our journey today?